What's up, everybody? It's your favorite 5950's favorite nerd, and some of you guys are gonna get that reference, and some of you aren't. That's no cap. This is Cap, though. In a different way, this is Fans Hobby Kap. Another one of their Headmaster Juniors that they've been putting out under the Master Builder line. And I'm pretty excited to take a look at this guy. I'm pretty excited to get him on the shelf. I'm gonna hope that some of the stuff that comes through in robot mode supersedes the presentation of alt mode, because it doesn't do much for me, but only time will tell, and I can only get there if we talk about accessories. He, of course, comes with his Headmaster, very similar to the other one. We have the visor that's painted with the metallic blue. The head will swivel. The arms are on little ball pegs. They'll come up to about there, and then they'll also get you all the way around with the elbow on a hinge. Same for the other side. The chest, we have this light silver. He obviously has an ab crunch due to the transformation. We have some white paint there. And then we have the hips, T-jointed ball joints, but you don't really get out to anything. You do get forward and back with a knee on a pinned hinge, which gets you the full run, once again, due to transformation. Not the worst thing in the world, certainly not the best either. To transform them is pretty much identical to the other ones, just collapse, bring up the hips, and then collapse the knee. This is the part that pegs in, and then you're left with this face, which looks pretty good. The smirk is a nice touch, has some character in it, and the eyes have a metallic blue. And then you can put this extra piece, which we haven't talked about yet, but it's his visor, well, no, his hat, rather, his cap. You might say it's his cap, am I right? With red and black paint added to it. And then you just clip that on as well. I don't have it done right, of course, because the camera's rolling. But then you have that look, which works nicely. Now, you might be asking yourself, but Uncle Skullface, what if I want to store him in the alt mode? I'm glad you asked. You just take off the cap. Once again, this is probably the only fire truck in the world that has a trunk. You open up the trunk, and you can put the cap inside and close it back up. Then you can open up the front of the fire truck, and you can situate these chairs here. There's a series of hinges. I'm not going to bore you with the details of it. I trust that you'll be able to figure it out. And you can sit him in to drive it. The steering wheel's on the wrong side. I'm kidding. I know. I'm just having a go. But other than that, it's good to go. You can store him in there, close this up. He's driving the fire truck. And of course, the head will also go inside the body. And gimmicks-wise, you can see the inside of the chest has the power stats. He also comes with a blaster of sorts. It's not the loveliest looking unit, but black plastic and sculpted well enough, not a lick of paint. You can collapse the handle and then sit it inside of here. It'll actually clip in between two tabs at the bottom there and then be stored if you'd like. And he can, of course, hold the weapon as well with a groove in the back of the palm that the gun kind of slides down in the old Make Toys and Fans Project style. And you get a sticker sheet. I would prefer a paintbrush, but you get a sticker sheet instead, which is fine. And there he is in alt mode. Rolls like a champ. This black translucent looks fantastic. The black paint, not so much. This is the second time we've seen this in very recent times with the translucent and the paint match. My personal opinion is that you should do one or you should do the other, but it should match. I don't really care which one you do, but it should match. The red plastic here does not do this toy any favors. It just doesn't present very well. In fact, it looks like a children's toy. Now, that's partially, in fact, due to the design of the Headmaster Juniors, and they should look a little squat and childish in their own way. Like, it's part of the charm of the characters. What is not part of the charm is the finish here, which we should expect, however, it doesn't do much for it. The silver on the side mirrors is a nice touch. And then we have some silver stuff here for accents on the pump panel, which looks pretty good. And then we have the rubber-esque tires. We have some nice diamond plating sculpting going on back there. That looks nice. Some silver paint. And this silver paint's different than that silver paint, so it's a little bit of variation. We have some turn signals that are decoed. The red translucent light bar looks pretty good. And the front of it looks pretty nice as well. I like the translucent plastic over top of it looks like silver, but perhaps even another layer of translucent plastic, but that actually does look nice. Unfortunately, not a lot else to say. The silver looks good inside of the wheels as well. The ladder does extend. This is the proper kind of configuration for it. It just doesn't look good, so I prefer it like that. If you ever look at like a fire truck on the road, never does the ladder sit halfway back. You know, it just doesn't look quite right. It looks a little bit better sitting up there. And then you have this bit, which is for water, and it can extend that far. So, you know, even with just one section kind of collapsed, it can look pretty Nah, I'm not gonna say it looks pretty good, but it can look better, which is nice. And then underneath is fairly clean. So that's about it, with the exception of it being next to Tiger Tracks. Squat little fella. Now I got one question for you. Are you ready to flip some flaps? Because that's what we're getting ready to do. Disconnect the cab from the back. That's where the legs are stored basically down here. The upper body is up here. You gotta disconnect all these flaps, and then we're just gonna get to flipping them. So we're gonna flip this flap, we're gonna flip this flap, we're gonna flip this flap, we're gonna untab the arm from the backpack or the back here, and then we're gonna flip this flap, we're gonna spin this flap, then we're gonna flip this flap, then we're gonna flip this flap, and then we're gonna extend the arm, right? One done. We'll work on the other side now, same thing. Disconnect the sections, flip some flaps. We're gonna flip this flap, we're gonna flip this flap, we're gonna flip this flap, we're gonna flippity flip this flap, we're gonna spin this flap, we're gonna flip this flap, we're gonna flip this flat, we're gonna extend that. We're gonna remove that from the side. Now we got two arms roughly. For the backpack, flip this flap, untab this flap, spin this flap around. Then you're gonna flip this flap, flip this flap. All right, now it needs to come to the opposite side. Just push the ladder down for now. We're gonna spin this flap, we're gonna spin this flap, and then these flaps, we're going to, flip this flap. I thought we were done flipping flaps. Silly me. Flip this flap, spin this flap. What was that? Spin this flap. And I think that's it. All right, spin to waist 180. Separate the legs. Once again, we have to open up a bunch of stuff. So open this up and bring the foot out. And we want to get these flaps flipped. I think that goes to the inside. And then we're going to bring this down. The chair rotates forward. And I don't really know if it matters what kind of configuration you have it in, as long as the front of the cab will sit over top of it. We're going to take the wheel and double hinge it up, and then flip this flap down. It does go to the outside. 50-50, right? And then bring this in. This tab here will go into the corresponding slot on the tire. Rotate the foot so that it makes anatomic sense. And then bring down this last inner cover to kind of hide it all. I don't know why it's giving me such grief at the moment, but there it is. Boom. All right, so same thing for the other side. We'll try to do this right this time. Open this up. Just get the seat out of the way. It doesn't, I think it's supposed to be this last hinge here, but it's actually a bit of a pain tolerance-wise. So just get it up and out of the way the best you can. You're gonna hide it with this anyway, right? Do your best. Move this out. We're gonna flip it to the outside this time and hopefully do it right. We're gonna remove that piece from its locking tab. Then we're gonna spin the whole bit down. At this point, you can move the foot out of the way. We're going to double hinge the tire up. We're gonna put the cab back, and we're going to rotate this panel in so that when we collapse it all, our tab on the inside of the ankle fits into the inside of the leg. And then we're going to position the feet so that it makes anatomic sense. And then we're gonna rotate this last panel up and around so that it fills in our gaps and plugs in. And I'll clean that up. Then the last steps that you kind of want to do is make sure that your backpack is sitting nice and tight down at the bottom, and then you're supposed to collapse these legs. I've taken the liberty to put the head in already. I'm not sure if proportionately I like that better or worse. I'm gonna extend it back. I'm gonna go through, we'll look at the figure like this because it doesn't really, like, you get less articulation like this too. I don't know. And final thoughts, we'll look at it both ways. And you guys let me know in the comments what you like better. I think I like the longer legs better. It looks a little bit more imposing to me, but I'll admit it doesn't look as clean. I don't know. You guys let me know. So let's talk about the figure. The head sculpt we kind of already talked about, but I quite like it. And then you get the swivel out of it. Not a whole lot else. We have the chest, which does have some decent deco on it. We have this the gunmetal on the chest and the abdomen, as well as this piece, obviously, that opens up for the kind of stats inside. We have the shoulders that get you a reverse butterfly, and then plus you get the swivel around, and you get it out to the side on a universal. We have the gunmetal silver painted on there, and then all this flat plastic red again. We have a bicep swivel. We have a single hinged elbow that gets you 90 degrees. We have a wrist swivel and the fingers on a base pin knuckle, and the index finger is individually articulated on its own separate piece of plastic, while the other three fingers are the same one, kind of old school masterpiece style. Same for the other side. We have a waist swivel. We have an ab crunch that's at the chest, which I quite like. Works pretty well. And then we have hips and hip skirts. We'll go ahead and get those out of the way. The hips are universals. Soft ratchet out to the side to there. Hard ratchet forward and back for the full Monty. We have a thigh swivel at a cut joint. That works fine. We have a single, no, it's a double hinge knee, but you really only get the single 90 degrees out of it. And then we have ankles. We have an ankle rocker that's ratcheted, slight ankle tilt up, and a good ankle tilt down. And a lot of the deco comes through on the cab nicely on the front of robot mode, which I think in many ways is kind of its saving grace. On the back, you have this bit here. This is what holds the gun during, like it kind of keeps the gun wedged in there in the alt mode. You would think that it would latch on to something here to kind of stabilize it. That could come free, obviously, if you needed to use the ab crunch, but not that I can tell. And then I kind of wish that the backpack sort of locked in a little tighter as well. But other than that, I mean, pretty good. And there he is in my Planet Beast diorama, my little fans hobby shelf, which is, I think, shaping up pretty nicely, honestly. I think it does all right. It'll get a little tricky here if we get target masters and all that, but for now, it looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. Final thoughts wise, we'll start with the negatives, and my biggest negative here is just deco. I really wish they took a little bit more paint to this guy. I think it would have really helped him pop in many, many ways. The biggest problem that I have with this guy is that he doesn't look as nice as he actually is, and I think a paintbrush would have done a lot for that. I also wish that you had a little bit more articulation, single hinge, 90-degree elbows, 90-degree knees. I just wish you had a little bit more there. And other than that, I don't really have a whole lot more negative to say about it. Positives wise, oh, real quick, there he is in the proper knee configuration as well, and it is a little bit more limiting for a range of motion that's kind of already feeling a bit limited. So I don't know, your call, your figure, you do what you want. I think I'm going to keep it extended. Positives wise, the transformation is actually a lot of fun. Even though it's pretty much just flipping flaps until all the flaps have been flipped, it's still a flap flipping fun time. I'm an idiot. The materials feel fair. The cab is the best looking thing of the alt mode, so it's good they put a lot of their resources there because it ends up also being the things you see most in robot mode, which is a nice touch. Just if they were going to divert energy somewhere, that they diverted it to a place where you're going to get it as a 2 for status. Comes with the appropriate accessories. Some of the bonus articulation that you get, even though this figure does feel a little bit limited sometimes, like the butterfly joints and the ab crunch really do a lot for its dynamic presence. And I think the sculpt is on the money. And it has that classic Make Toys Fans Project, very Japanese vibe about it, which I think is pretty cool also. So yeah, it's a recommend from me, but it's certainly not the figure of the year kind of status. It's not setting the world on fire, am I right? It's putting the fire out. All right, that's enough out of me for today. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.